calling, they felt. So,
I still stay today, till today, it's like kind of a cult.
it is to a
It's no
degree.
different than a cult to a degree.
Right. There's some similarities there for
I mean,
sure.
we're not terrorists. We never
Right.
were terrorists like Al Qaeda or something like that. Not when people think of cults, you know. We did have morals and values and stuff like that.
But it was for the benefit of that group. That's, you know, their society, right? That's, at least that's what they felt that they were doing, was in service to others, right? I mean, their people, their family, their clan, their group, whatever, right? Their community.
But like the mundane, I don't even know if I'm saying the word right. You know, when they say mundane time, like the time when, you know, what was a day in the house, like a pastime, like, you know, like, you know, what did Joe Bonanno eat for breakfast?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing.
Things
You know,
like that. You know,
those guys were famous for, and they always used to just fascinate me that we would be having lunch, and they're talking about what we're going to have for dinner. Right?
Always.
It was always, right?
It's
For
always
breakfast, you're talking about what's for lunch. At lunch, you're talking about, it's like, do you guys do anything besides think about eating and eating food?
Was symbolic.
Right? The food, not only the eating of it, but the prep and going to the store. And, you know, back then they went to the butcher for this. They went to the guy to get the vegetables. They went to another guy to get bread. I mean, it was a whole day thing, right? So every day seemed to be, you know, about food. You know, about the prep of the meal and getting ready for the meal and being ready for the meal. And we ate, you know, at 6 o'clock, not 6:05, not 5:55, 6 o'clock every, you know, my grandfather, every night he had dinner in front of him at 6 p.m. every night, no matter what.
Now let's say you show up at 6:15.
Oh my God. Yeah. It would just, he would be so pissed. Right. I mean, he would let you eat, but you would just feel, he wouldn't say much, but he would make you feel like you have just totally disrespected him by being 10 minutes late. And when I was in college, you know, and I was running around and what the hell, oh man, I'm 10 minutes late. What's the big deal? Right. But you could feel this just intense.
Yeah.
You're like, oh man, I screwed it up. And then, you know, later in life, you find out, you know, it was just because it was a sign of respect. If you respected somebody, you would show up on time. If you didn't,
you're there at 5:45.
Right, you would have been early, right? But I wasn't thinking of it that way until later in life. Then, you know, when you're at an airport and your son doesn't show up for 20 minutes, and you realize, son of a bitch, now I know what he was talking about. It's just a sign of disrespect. Well, Dad, I got this and I got this. Well, if you respected me, you would have put those things aside and you would have been at the airport at 6 to pick me up, right, when you were supposed to be.
Right, I would have been on your mind first.
Right, that would have been first choice, not your third after you do this and after you do that and then run over and get, so.
Like when you come to Tucson, you don't play tennis first, you come see me.
Right, you come and you check in. You don't have to get my permission for everything, but you let me know you're in town and then you go about your business, you know, so those are the kind of things.
But but
it was all about food, right? It was just meals where,
So breakfast.
Breakfast, you know, my grandfather was a big breakfast guy. He would eat, healthy foods, you know, fruits and vegetables and, you know, not, you know, eggs and bacon and, you know, stuff. They would have more of the European breakfast, you know, with the sliced meats and cheeses sometimes and pastries and stuff like that. You know, and then lunch, you know, they would just
drink espresso. He drink black coffee?
He would drink regular coffee. I mean, he would have espresso at times, but
the old-fashioned espresso pots?
Oh, yeah. My grandmother was, you know, just into that. And she, you know, there's a good story in his book about how they were driving across the country and they stayed at somebody's house in like Oklahoma and then they realized they forgot it. And there was no way they were going to get another one. They drove back and got, you know, my grandfather.
They got the pot.
She got the pot because my grandma was having, you know, she didn't want a new one. She wanted that one. And they went back and got it.
Because it's seasoned already, you know?
Right, exactly. So, yeah, it was very important to my grandmother. My grandpa,
So Joe Bonanno gets up, he has espresso, you know, have some fruit, some cheese, like maybe some pastry or something. And then we talk about lunch.
And back in the day, you know, we had things called newspapers. You're old enough to remember those, right?
Yeah.
So he would have the New York Times, he would have the Tucson paper, he would have the Phoenix paper, and usually either LA Times or the San Francisco Chronicle. He would be going through all the papers.
I share like 5 or 6 papers.
5 or 6 papers. You know, then the USA Today came out later, and he would include that, and then the Wall Street Journal. But mostly it was the New York Times and the LA Times and the local Arizona papers.
So he was well read every day.
Yeah, every day, right? Every day.
Do you have the 10-10 wins on?
The what?
10-10 wins.
I don't know
We give you give us 10 minutes. We give you the world. Remember that station back in New York?
Yeah, he would watch the news, but he was a avid reader of. He consumed it via the newspaper.
That's when he got up. He got the subscriptions. He read.
Right, they were all delivered to the house. To his front door. Even the New York Times after a while.
New York Times. Did he do the cross puzzles?
No,
crosswords.
He was always studying,
reading
the words and what was happening in the world. He was very, very up on world affairs and had an opinion. And he was friends with Reagan, because Reagan was a salesman out here in the 50s in a little part of town called Maryville, and they were building.
Maryville, yeah.
And my grandfather was an investor and had met Reagan back when he was as a pitchman, and they remained friends till the day Reagan died. So he had all kinds of personal letters and invitations to the White House, and my grandfather was proudly and fiercely American. He loved being an American.
He loved it.
Yeah.
God bless. The reason why I asked about the crosswords puzzles is because when I was in jail, this last bid, I had a subscription to the New York Times, and I would read the Times and the local paper, the Arizona Republic. Begrudgingly read the Republic, because they wrote about me, they splattered me all over the papers. I don't like the reporters there. Anyways, they're just doing their job. I used to do the crosswords.
Oh yeah.
Kept
I never, I never remember him doing it. It sounds like something he would have done, but I don't recall him.
So he gets done with his reading.
Yep.
Then he goes to work on the ranch.
And then he would go and water the plants. And, he always had dogs, either German Shepherds or Dobermans. And he loved his dogs. So he'd always, take his dogs out for a walk and, do a little training or, playing with them. But mostly it was training. I remember that he would have, these German Shepherds that spoke German. And he spoke enough German to, these dogs.
The commands were German.
The commands were German, and the dogs were absolutely disciplined like you would not. I mean, they were trained in Germany, and then they brought them over, and those dogs were just incredible. They weren't your warm, fuzzy, licking their face dogs, but they were very attentive. They came when you called them. They never ran off. They were service animals.
Right. How many you had?
Over the years, he had, I think 3 or 4 Dobermans and a couple of German Shepherds.
I had a couple dogs like that. Yeah. Well, I can't get into it now later after I'm off paper, but when I bought a house in PV, I had 7.5 acres.
Nice.
And I had 2 dogs that were trained just to go on the perimeter 24/7. Well, especially at night, those type of dogs you're talking about. Yeah. They get all their commands in another language, like attack, stay, sit,
And he was a disciplinarian, and dogs love discipline, right? They love to be.
They want to be told.
They want They want to please, and the more that he would discipline them, the more they would love him. And those dogs were so well behaved, and I've always had well behaved dogs. As a result, because
I love dogs.
Yeah, they just want to be. They want to be trained. They want to please you. That's what they're dogs. That's why we all love them so much.
And what I got now is a couch potato.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, every time I sit on the couch, he throws himself on there. He'll put his head right on my lap.
So my kids have a dog, right? And it's a big lab, and he let them jump on the furniture and everything. And when I'm home, I don't let the dogs on the furniture. I just don't. And in their house, they do it. But when I'm over there, that dog knows I don't like him on the couch, and he jumps off the couch when he sees me coming. Yeah. And he stays by my side because I'm the only one who disciplines him, and they want it, right? They want to serve you.
So he goes. That's how he got his exercise, pretty much. His steps in.
And then, he was a big walker. Yeah, he was always counting his steps way before it was popular, to count steps. He had a journal, how many steps, and he would always walk every day.
So he was counting.
Oh yeah, he was always journaling how far and when he walked.
How many steps you say you would do a day, average?
Oh, it was probably over 10,000. And he would walk in his backyard, just pace back and forth, thinking, and then he would write notes. He always had a pen and paper handy, and just always just pacing and walking, and always into nutrition. And he was into nutrition way before it was popular, and eating balanced meals. And
because he lived to be 98 years old. I mean, that's
in his world, in that world,
that's a tough thing to do. It's tough today,
right?
But so lunchtime was like
Lunch was usually, a sandwich and some fruit, or something, antipasta or something like that,
So more the Mediterranean diet.
Oh, yeah.
And dinner was the big deal, right?
And then dinner was the big deal, usually a pasta of some sort, and then, a steak. He didn't eat too much chicken or pork. The pork, they didn't like it. And then the chicken was kind of a lowbrow type of food, right? So a lot of steaks. He loved the steaks, and we always had, big, nice, beautiful, juicy steaks when we were having dinner over there. So.
Any pastries like?
Oh yeah, and they had Vero's Bakery. They had a lot of friends that were bakers in Tucson, and they always had
Make them everything.
Best. And then anytime somebody came from back east, they would bring the boxes and boxes of stuff. I loved all that stuff.
What was his favorite pastry? You say?
I couldn't tell you.
If you had to pick his favorite food, what was it?
Oh, it was a plate of pasta with red sauce on a sundae with the meat sauce.
Just the meat sauce.
Yeah.
Did you call it sauce or gravy?
Sauce. Yeah, sauce.
So Sunday sauce, right?
Sunday sauce. Yeah.
With the meatballs, the brajol, all that stuff.
He loved that. Yeah, that would definitely. I would think that would be his top pick.
I put my family would put ricotta in it too.
Oh yeah. Always
mix
loved
it
that.
in.
Yeah, I love that flavor. Yeah, the tomatoes.
The salad after.
The salad after.
Not before.
Right? So,
right?
Yeah.
No, that's interesting stuff because a lot of people, they would wonder, like, how's a guy like that live personally, Because they got this perception, it's always business, but then they see a guy playing with the dog, reading the paper, sitting with his family every night. Yeah, he's a normal.
And then, after dinner was always the best time because, like, he would peel, a pear or an orange, and with a knife, he would peel the whole skin off without breaking the skin. He would just sit there and then he would cut it up and, hand
and you
it
had
out.
to wait for your piece.
You had to wait for your piece, right?
I tell you, that reminds me when my father, when his grandmother used to date Al Capone, and I had heard that, she left Capone for my grandfather, who would be my great-grandfather today. Mm-hmm. And she used to tease him in Italian all the time, saying, look how I could have lived with Capone. I wasted my life with you. And he used to yell back in Italian, But they would cook every Sunday, like they were cooking, like 20 people were coming over. Because if you were in the neighborhood, you better stop there. And there's always a dish of pasta there waiting for you.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And he made rice balls every day.
Oh, yeah.
A small batch.
Arancini?
Yeah. but like the homemade arancini, What I was getting at was he would do the same thing. So we would sit at the table after dinner. Yeah. He would cut the fruit. And, me, I want to just grab it.
Right, yeah.
I remember I went to go grab the fruit. I got smacked in my hand. Boom.
You didn't do that.
Yeah, you got to wait. And I'm sitting there just, impatient, waiting for him to cut the pear, But you're right. He would go down and shop all day.
All day.
He would go to the fruit guy for this, go to the meat for that.
Yeah.
But there was never any condiments in his house. Like, in other words, you couldn't get ketchup. You couldn't get, you couldn't get, there was no salt, no pepper. Maybe, I don't even remember any salt, any pepper. I don't remember any ketchup, mustard, mayo, none of that stuff.
We never had that stuff either, yeah.
Yeah, right? So it was no condiments, no nothing. It was just real food.
Right.
Well,
they got insulted. Like if, even to this day, if people go over to my mom's house and she puts a plate of pasta in front of you, some people just immediately put cheese on it before they even taste it. And my mom's like, you got to taste it first. How do you know it needs cheese? And people are like so taken aback. Or when people, before they eat, they put salt and pepper on something. It's like, you haven't even tasted it yet.
That's right. A lot of restaurants now, they're leaving salt and pepper on the table. They don't cook with it because everybody's got a different palate.
Right.
You get it, it's too salty for me. There's not enough salt. Well, here you want salt and pepper.
Yeah.
It's like I think when we went to lunch a few days ago, there was no salt and pepper at the table.
Salt and pepper,
Everything was seasoned good.
Yeah.
They charge for it, but, you're paying for it, right? So as far as like when you were here in Arizona, let's say, the restaurants, like what was your go-to place? I mean, for me, I had a hard time when I first came here.
Yeah.
Because back then you really couldn't get anything.
Yeah.
You found the first thing you did was when you landed somewhere, you looked for the pizzeria or you looked for the Italian joint.
Right.
And I found this place when I got here. It was called Amoroso's. They're not there no more.
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah.
Remember?
Yep.
Ladies from Italy over there. Yeah. And I mean, they made something really close, to what we're used to.
So the thing was I grew up in California, right? So Mexican food and burritos were a big thing. So when I came out here, the Mexican food is a little different in Arizona than it is in California. But I was all about the Mexican restaurants. I love the Arizona Mexican food. A little bit different, but as far as, Italian places go, back in, I think it was like 93, I'd been here a couple years. They ended up with a pizza place on Mill Avenue and, right off Mill on Baseline. Called New York Temptations. It was a pizza place. And
it was your place?
What?
That was back in... what year was that?
It was the early 90s.
Okay, I'm thinking of something else.
Okay. And, they started this pizza place, and that was, then it was just a little, pizza place, sold pies and slices. And then they bought the place next door and they turned it into a bar. And that was my brother ran it for a couple of years. So that was always, that was my go-to spot because, not only, my brother owned it and I didn't have to pay for anything, but.
You know what you're eating too.
What? And
what you're eating.
It was good, right? So.
Right.
But yeah, there's some great places around here. I mean, used to be Tommaso's was always my favorite.
Yeah, Tommaso's
because the old man knew my grandfather and always
what a nice family too.
Yeah, treated us with total respect and rolled out the red carpet when we went there. And even years after he died, I would go there and he would recognize me. I don't know how the old man would recognize me and roll out the red carpet. So Tommaso's was always my favorite Italian restaurant in town here in Phoenix anyway. Yeah,
I used to go there a lot too. Yeah. Tommaso, his son, he does a good job.
Yeah, and that's Italiano. Was that his place?
Yeah, Italiano. Yeah. He's got a few concepts, but what a great family.
Yeah, they're great.
They've been around a long time. Yeah. And he has some places, some of the Italian places when I first got out here, they pose like they're connected, but they ain't, uncle this and uncle that.
Wannabes,
Yeah, a lot of wannabes. I caught a lot of shit when The Sopranos came out.
Oh, yeah.
Because I never lost my accent. So I used to sell cars in the car business, and then when The Sopranos show was on, I caught a lot of, hey, Tony, Yeah. I tell you, the time flew by, It was just unbelievable. And I think the pandemic changed a lot of things. I remember this time around when I was in jail, they locked us down. They locked me down for over a year.
Oh, shit.
23 hours a day.
Wow.
Only let me out for an hour. The good thing is I was by myself.
Yeah.
And I had a good cell where I could see the TV. You had to put the earplugs in. Yeah. So I used to call it I had the penthouse, the
penthouse.
Condo. No HOA fees. They used to go, how you doing in there? I go, good. I said, I got no HOA. I got no utilities. Everything is all inclusive.
I'm just living life in the penthouse.
Yeah. The guard used to come by. I used to say, because the name of the prison was Florence. Yeah. I used to go, excuse me, is this Florence, Italy? No, I don't think you're in Florence, Italy. But I tell you what do you call? I mean, that's CCV. You know where it is in Florence? Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's something else.
Visited a few people there. A few.
You did?
Yeah.
Behind the glass? Mm-hmm. I tell you, it pained me when my daughters had to come see me,
Oh, yeah.
Behind the glass, and you got your hand, and you put it up against their hand, I said, I'll probably never forget that.
Yeah.
But it's okay, it toughens them up, right?
Right. Well, I mean, some of my favorite memories as a kid were going to visit Dad down at Terminal Island in L.A., so...
Well, that's I don't want to say it's a good joint, but people
back then,
it's a good place to do time.
We used to call them country clubs, right?
Yeah, that's a good place to do time.
Right.
I remember when I was in the country, well, not the country club, but the camp in La Tuna, Texas.
Oh, yeah.
1,500 inmates, 800 of them are Mexican, the Mexicans from Mexico.
Right.
They call them Paisa. But then you don't realize, they got their thing too. Like they're very similar to Italians.
Right.
Like the Italians from Italy.
And Italians.
Very similar to the Paisa. Yeah. They really don't respect the ones that are born here.
Right.
They fight a lot.
Second-class citizens. Right.
Same thing with us. If you're born here, you're American. You're American.
Exactly.
You're not
say that all the time.
Right? You're not Italian.
Yep.
I remember when my father had my grandmother's wishes before she passed was, I want to see my brother and sister. So my old man, they come from Naples, right? So my father's side's from Calabria, my mother's side's from Naples. You guys are Sicilian, right? Mm-hmm. We're good cooks and dickheads, they say, right? My old man says, okay, we'll reach out and get them over. Yeah. Well, from 2 people, the list grew to like 10 people. Now he's like, well, you know what? So what? So my grandmother lived in an apartment on Kenmare Street. And then my aunt lived in another apartment. So everybody just stood, they found their way. Who slept on the couch, who slept in a bed, who slept on the floor. You know how it was.
Found a way, right.
So I got my cousins there that I never even know. I just met them. You know, they can hardly speak English. My uncle's translating. In the morning, like you said, they want to get up. They want their coffee and pastries.
Yep.
So back then, it was like maybe in the 90s. You can't get Nutella anywhere.
Right.
You had to go like to a specialty shop.
Right.
You know, to get these pastries, you had to go to like Venero's. You had to go to Cafe Roma. You had to go to places to get it. You just didn't have it on hand. But they wanted their sweets and their coffee.
Yep.
Lunch was the biggest meal. 3 different pastas with 3 different sauces. Fresh mozzarella. Had to be fresh. We put palio in front of them.
Yeah.
You get it. We had to go get the burrata. We had to get everything, right? And again, we had to go shopping for everything. And then it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We go check on them. Everybody's out cold.
Yeah.
Taking a nap.
Siesta time, yeah.
Your grandfather would take a nap?
Yeah.
Yeah, like it'd be siesta, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the middle of New York City. My father's like, what the f*** is wrong? What the f***? Wake them up. Like, no, don't wake them. My uncle's like, no, siesta. Siesta what?
That's the way they do it.
There's cars beeping. There's f***ing people. There's, right in the middle of the city. And then they get up. Dinner was light.
Yeah.
Dinner was the hard cheese and the pepper, the hard salami, whatever.
Antipasta, yeah.
Some fruit and things like that. Excuse me. And, of course, the wine, So anyway, this is every day. So from 3 days, they want to stay 5. Now it's day 10. We're trying to get people in the neighborhood that talk Italian to hang with them. You know what I mean? So they feel at home. And there was a couple cafes where people talk Italian and they made them feel right back they were in Naples, And they had no respect for cops. So I got my 2 cousins in the back seat. Yeah. I had a hardball bat. Because back then you always carried a hardball bat in your car, right? Just in case. And my uncle's in the front seat, the one who could talk English and Italian. And there's a cop directing traffic on the corner. Somebody cut me right off. They get pissed off. They want to get out of the car and they want to hit the guy with the bat. And I'm like, no, there's a cop over there. They still wanted to get out. The only thing that stopped them was my uncle said FBI. Oh. They dropped everything. That's all they understood was FBI. They didn't care about the cop. They didn't care about anything. They would have hit him and everybody else, right? So anyway, it gets to like day whatever. It's like over a week now, right? So my old man, we're tired of going and getting this fresh mozzarella. It's like, you know what? Just get the fucking palio, cut it up. They ain't gonna know. They cut it up in cubes, little cubes. They sprinkle on their pot. They ain't gonna know the difference, right? Well, we tried that, right? And they go, no, we want fresh mozzarella. That's it. Get them out of here.
Go back.
Just like drove them to the airport, sent them back. Mission accomplished. Well, my sister went there to go visit years ago. Yeah. And it wasn't the same hospitality.
Oh, bummer.
I mean, they treated them good, but not as good as we treated them. I don't know if it's, just not, I don't know. We didn't get the same, I didn't go. But
anyway, yeah.
I got a lot of cousins out there that I don't even know.
Oh, yeah.
There's like 50 or 60 of them out there. They're all on Facebook, and social media today brings the world together. I'm sure there's still a lot of Bonannos you don't know.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
In Sicily and everything, right?
Yeah.
What part of Sicily? What town?
Castellamare del Golfo. Yeah.
That's where it all started.
Yeah, that's the birthplace, right?
That's where it all started.
It's all coming together.
It's all about the Bonannos. Always a pleasure having you, buddy. Honor to have you here. Looking forward to do it again. Glad you can make it. Glad you're a friend of mine. Welcome aboard, and like I said, a pleasure to have you. Yeah, that was a good conversation. I enjoyed it, and look forward to coming back. Okay, pal. All right, thank you, buddy. See you. You fuck around and playing with the wrong pistol. My shit got a broken safety. Flow sumo, this ain't a game, Uno. Shout out to my Usos, killing bills like Uma. Balls travel from Pluto, big truck soprano, gabagool and prosciutto, kicking ill like judo, judge and jury like Judy. Hoes think they knew me, flows flow through me. Nike gray hoodie, contemplating money. Bees swarming like honey, watch your little homie filter through the phone.